It's been a while since I've made a studio video, and today I'm just going to be talking about the difference between braid and monoline and which one you should get and which one's right for you. If you guys haven't seen my last video, I'd go give it a watch. It took me a long time to make and I'm just super proud of it. It was a lot of fun, and it's a trailer for what's going to be coming in July. So, go give that a watch. I'll link it below and above, and let's get on with the video. Mono versus braid. Now, this has been a topic among fishermen for probably as long as braid has been invented. Mono was the original line, and now braid is a new line that's been out for probably 30, 40 years. Fact check me on that, I'm not super sure. There's some key differences, there's some price differences, there's some tactical differences. So let's start by talking about just thickness of the line. Braid is a naturally thinner line. If you look at this diagram, braid line, the same segment of braid and mono, both 20 pounds. The mono will be much thicker in diameter than the braid, meaning that on the braid you can extend and you can have extra line in your reel, as opposed to mono where you'll get less line capacity just because of the diameter of the actual line. Now, another big topic of discussion between braid and mono is not just the line size, but it's also the fact that on a braid, when you're using braided line, you need a leader generally. You can tie knots with braid, but they're much weaker, and definitely don't do that. You always want to use a monofilament or a fluorocarbon leader. Fluorocarbon is just monofilament, but it's made of a different type of material. I'm not specifically sure, but it makes it look in the water like it's invisible. So that's super cool. Mono, you don't need any type of leader or any of that unless you want to use a thicker line for your leader. But for the most part, you can just always tie your knot directly to your lure with the mono, where you can't do that with braid. That's just another thing to consider. Another thing to consider is that braided line is more expensive than monoline. I'd say it's almost double the price. It'd be a little less, probably more like a third more. But braided line is always going to be more expensive because it's probably harder to make than mono. It's stronger, it's thinner. All the aspects I've talked about makes it more expensive. Back to this diagram. Monoline, because of its nature of material that's made of, it's made of this nylon type material. It stretches out. When you cast it, when a fish is on, the line can compress, decompress, it can stretch out. Braid can't do that at all. It doesn't compress. It's more like a rope. It's like a very skinny fishing rope. Now, what this causes is over time, mono can stretch out, it can decompress, it can lower in quality over age, where braid generally for the most part stays nice, thin, strong for much longer. The only thing you have to worry about is in saltwater. Sometimes it can start to get frayed with long use. Some cons of both of these lines: braided line can cause wind knots, which is just as you cast it, a knot can appear, very small. And what this will cause is, it'll cause you when you're reeling in, it can get caught in eyes. It can maybe even break an eye. It can also, the braided line can get caught in stuff very easily. For instance, if you're casting out and caught something, such as a bird, Cal did that one time, it can get really, really tangled really fast, and it almost sticks to things like birds. It's just the consistency of the material. And also, monoline, on the other hand, as it's sitting in your spool, it starts to almost take the shape of the spool. So as you cast out, the line will be all twirled. And I don't know why this happens. I think it's just the nature of the line. But that does happen. It doesn't happen with braid at all. So you can cast farther with braid over time in a longer distance, whereas mono, it starts to wear out, age, and you need to replace it more often. Braided does seem very good, but it's not always the option. For bass fishing, mono's generally always the choice, just because of the nature of how bass are smaller and you're in freshwater. Just mono is the good choice for bass fishing or any small game fish or any smaller type freshwater fish. Braided, on the other hand, is great for saltwater surf casting. That's all we use, only braided. We don't have a single reel with mono. That's actually, I haven't shown you any mono yet because we don't have a single reel with mono, just because braided is better in saltwater conditions. It's also great in structure fishing because unlike mono where it can rip and tear, generally braided, when you cast or if a fish is taking you in rocks or it gets wrapped around a pylon, it won't break because it's stronger. I mean, it can, I guess, break sometimes, but generally when it gets wrapped around structures, it'll stay firm and you won't lose a fish. My van stall is rigged up with braided line. I did it over the vineyard trip where I filmed that video. Now, braided line's awesome. It comes in these colors right here. You can get it in green. This particular line is called Power Pro. It comes in green, yellow, blue. I always just use green because the yellow to me seems too bright and I just think fish would be able to see it, whereas the green kind of blends in more with the water. Right here I have some monofilament line. Now this line's super good. This is actually what I use for leader. It has very similar characteristics to monoline. It's just fluorocarbon, which makes it, I'm not sure the difference 100%. But I know fluoro is definitely higher quality, it costs more, it's very expensive. It's like $30 for something like this. Now, fluoro with braided, awesome for saltwater. Mono, bass fishing, freshwater fishing, it's really good. And then when you get into more high-end fishing, like tuna fishing, they use 200, 300, 400 pound mono line for the tuna. And that's crazy. The line is so thick. And the reason they use such high quality mono for that is when a fish hits your rod so hard, it needs to be able to compress a bit. Whereas if they use braided, the odds it would snap are just too high for that risk to lose that fish. Well, that's it for today, guys. It felt good to be back in the studio. I said that the last time we were in the studio over a long hiatus, but it does really feel good to make a video in here. So, I'm not really, like a lot of weeks, I'm not sure what we have planned. July's the vineyard. The summer is going to be in PEI, which is Prince Edward Island, Canada, which is here. And so make sure you subscribe to this channel. I post new videos every Sunday. I hope you like it so far. If you're watching, if this is your first video, especially go check out some old ones. They're all linked below. Maybe you'll even enjoy them. Alright guys, I will see you next Sunday. And, you don't know, do you? Alright, cut.